Welcome, welcome, welcome. I love seeing all your faces, and I'm just going to go through and greet some people. Hello, Beth. I want to talk to you in a moment, so hang on. And good to see you. We'll be hearing a lot from you. Diane, great to see you. Louis, you look the same, usually. Good to see you're here, Richard Bell, except I don't see a picture. Eitan, greetings from here to Israel. And Andrea, good to see you. Julia, nice to see you. Always sitting in the same couch. And Stefan, nice to see you. Stefan, I can't see you because you're so beautifully backlit. You're a silhouette. Aggie, great to see you. Mark, great to see you. And George, great to see you with the same. Oh, is it always the same hat, George? Always the same hat? Okay, just wanted to check. Eduardo, nice to see you again. Wonderful to see you. Ithel, is that how you pronounce it? Ithel? No, it's totally wrong. Totally wrong.
Also, it's not my name. It keeps defaulting.
It's somebody else's computer?
No, it's my husband's name. I have no idea what's wrong with my
It's your husband's. Well, then, okay. What is your name?
I'm Angela.
Angela. Okay, Angela. Good to know, because I wanted to talk to you in a second. So hang on. Let me see. Marilyn. Good to see that you're here, Marilyn. Norbert. Great that you're here. By the way, all of you, Norbert and I, Norbert's from Munich. I worked on several projects together. He's a great director, producer. Paige, great to see you. Uzoma, great to see you. Tito, nice to see you. Sean hiding behind no picture. Okay, that's okay. Pamela, good to see you. George, great to see you. Vanessa, good morning, good afternoon, great to see you. First of all, thank you all of you who wrote emails to me after last session, and I wrote back to all of you. And so you know who you are. I want to thank you for your emails and your questions. And I always find any question challenging and a joy to answer. And a lot of you put things in chat last week. So Angela, wherever you are, there you are. Oh, now it says Angela. Well done. I don't know how you did that. But you said sometimes you think interrogation is very ballsy. This is a quote, aggressive. How do you practice on a smaller scale so you become more comfortable with it? Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm a pretty aggressive director, and I still can't like really picture myself doing this like cold and just being like, now I'm going to yell at you a little bit.
Okay. There are several responses I have to that. Number one, Angela, in today's session, we'll be looking at different tones and attitudes of the interrogation process. So that sort of fits in a little bit with what your question is. What you've seen so far was very aggressive, and it's very pushy and demanding. And what you're going to see today is some softer approaches to it. That's number one. Number two, though, Angela, what you just said, which is really important, is that you don't think you could do that. You wonder if you can do that. One thing that has become very clear to me through the many, many years of doing this process, now getting close to, I don't know, 15, 20 years of doing this process and teaching this process, is that the biggest obstacle directors can run into with this, trying to facilitate this way of working, the biggest obstacle is themselves, their own fears, resistance, personality. I can't be angry. I can't yell at a woman. I can't, in other words, there are things inside each of us, I have them too, that get in the way of us taking on certain attitudes, behaviors, or tones with another person, even though we know in our head, we're just doing this. First of all, it's an actor, and we know we're doing it with the character. We're not even doing it with the actor. So recognizing that, Angela, is really good. Recognizing, which brought up your question, like, I'm feeling uncomfortable with this. That's the first step. The second big step, that's a much bigger step, is practice it. and even in a situation, we'll talk about this a little later, practicing with an actor, say even on a Zoom, say, listen, I'm going to say some awful things to your character right now. Hang in, I'll see if I can do it. Even apologize, whatever you have to do to get yourself over that threshold to try something. It's like any other skill you're going to acquire, you have to keep practicing and practicing and practicing until it feels comfortable within you.
And I get the whole point is the destabilization part is a big portion of it. And I feel like, yeah, to get it that far, it's not going to feel super stable on the interrogator as well, I would assume.
It's not going to feel.
I mean, you want to destabilize the characters so they release something more authentic. I get why you want to do that. But like, do you feel uncomfortable while you're doing it? Like, does the interrogator also? No, you're completely comfortable.
I'm totally comfortable, which probably says a lot about my psyche or something like that. But I'm totally comfortable. But I'm also very comfortable knowing exactly what I'm doing and what we're trying to achieve. And when I see it happening, when I see the destabilization going on within the characters, like you'll see some more in this clip again today. When I see that, I know we are achieving the results I'm going for. So I feel good. That's objectively, I feel good about that. I don't feel bad that I destabilize this character at all. I'm actually intrigued to see how the character is trying to get himself or herself back and get stable again and see if they can do it. But this another part that I have to move on, is my years of working with actors this way and my years of talking to actors about the process, even right after an interrogation, to see how it was working with them. And that's another thing that gives me great comfort. Okay. So also DC Forrest, you're here somewhere. And you had said you're now wanting to try the Travis technique. Are you there, DC? If you can unmute yourself, you could join in.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. I'm
here. Hi, Mark.
Nice to see you, DC. So you said you feel like you're wanting to try it now, but you said post-COVID. First of all, there's nobody in the world who knows what post-COVID means or when that will be. But okay, aside from that, DC, think of this. You can start today. We're going to talk to some other people in a moment here. You'll get an idea what I'm talking about. You could start today. Forget waiting post-COVID. If post-COVID means because you can gather together with actors, don't wait for that. Do it just the way we're doing this webinar. Do it on Zoom. Do it on Zoom. Now, Lewis, who is on this call, you've heard a little bit about Lewis. You're going to hear more about Lewis, not so much today, but in the weeks to come, who has over 6 months been working with actors on Zoom with this technique. So bottom line, DC, don't wait until post-COVID. In fact, this is one of my little jokes with the actors who I know I want to work with. I know where they are right now. They're at home. They're home. And I say, we get on Zoom? Yeah. Are you doing anything? No. Would you like to rehearse a little bit? I would love to. In other words, use this isolation, stay at home, sequestering, DC, to your advantage to start practicing. And the other thing is, nice thing about practicing on Zoom, you are still isolated. You can just say Zoom, you can practice on Zoom, and then you can get off the call and go, okay, I did that. And which I was going to talk about later. But for all of you, if you want to practice this, do practice it with actors on Zoom. Record the session. You can give it to the actor if you want. That's totally up to you, but record it for yourself. Because, and this is something that I've been working with Lewis on a lot, is record it and then watch the recording, DC, and critique yourself. And you go, oh, I see, there's an opportunity I missed. I could have done this, or this is where I lost courage, or this is where I lost my train of thought. In other words, watch your own clip. You can just watch it all by yourself if you want to. You could watch it with the actor if you want to. So Zoom can be your friend. Okay, thank you. Good.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah. Okay, Beth. Now, listen to this, DC. Beth says, I've been using this during the past week via Zoom with a group of 4 actors, and it's been great. Are you there, Beth?
Here.
Just briefly tell us a little bit about what you've been doing.
Well, it's been fascinating. By the way, Mark, I've just sent you a very long email from last week. So just letting you that. Well, basically, I took 4 actors on Zoom. I had a new play which was due to open in March. And we were workshopping the play, but because of everything, it got closed down. So I couldn't, progress with it. So I decided to use this technique with 4 of the actors. It was quite interesting because it was 2 sisters, or is 2 sisters, and they both have a very long distant relationship. It's very dysfunctional. The mother's just passed away with cancer, and one of the daughters was late for the funeral. She's a very city girl. So I used this technique and asked them all these questions about, why was she late really? What was the reason behind it? And the relationship and what came out was and I had written the play, and even I hadn't thought of all these concepts that these 2 actors had brought out using this technique with the building of the history. So it fascinated me and has inspired me because owing to their history, which they developed and created, it's allowed me to alter the play. And I've also found the weaknesses in parts of the play for the ending. So it's been an amazing process for me, not just from the actors and their point of view, but for me as writer as well. So it was like a 2-way collaboration. So I was very excited, and it's really inspired me.
Well, this is great. This is great, Beth. And I don't know, and congratulations on that. I don't know if I don't think in this webinar we've discussed which will be another whole webinar, but a technique that I've developed with the interrogation process called Meet Your Characters, where this was really developed for writers and anybody developing a story, directors, writers, actors, anybody,
Right.
where you can literally meet your characters. And let's say they're fictional characters. You meet your characters. Now you have to work with actors to do this. Through the interrogation process, you meet your characters and you'll start discovering things that you're talking about, Beth. Like, well, there's an idea. What came out of that character? I hadn't thought of that. My feeling, this is another big long speech, which I won't go into. My feeling is that one of the most fertile territories we have in this work we do with actors, writers, and directors is not being used anywhere near enough, and that's the creative imagination of actors. We too often put them into a box and say, here are your lines, here's your character, here's how it's going to go, and the director will control it. With the Meet Your Characters, you release all that creativity that's inside the actors, but you're releasing the character inside that actor so you can start to see the potential and the possibility of what those characters can be, and then you go back and do a rewrite or whatever you do. So that's what you just tapped into, which is fantastic. I look forward to reading your email that you've sent me, and I will respond to it.
Thank you.
Okay,
it's been great. Thank you.
Moving on, David C., you are here. You made a comment about watching the clip, which I thought was very, very insightful. It's simple and straightforward and clear and insightful. You said, I see 2 characters watching their relationship end, not 2 actors trying to bring a script to life. Yeah. And I think that is sort of the key of what we're going for here, David, is we want the audience to see 2 characters watching whatever they're watching is in their relationship. We don't want to see the acting, as brilliant as the acting may be. So I wanted to thank you for that observation. And
you're welcome. This has been great for me. I've learned so much. It's been, I was a film student. I was in the military, and now I'm excited about what my actual chosen profession is. This is really exciting.
You're actually, this is your chosen profession?
This is what I want to do. I was in the military because I'm a poor kid, but this is what I want. This is what my passion has always been. And I'm geeked right now. I'm excited.
Okay, great. Well, we're here to help you get there. And we can talk about that more later. Okay, moving on. So I want to thank you all for your emails and thank you all for your texts and everything. Now, we have a guest today, and our guest today is Benedict Roscoe. Let me tell you a little bit about Benedict. You may remember him. He also recorded a testimonial that we used in our promotion early for this webinar. But Benedict and I met in 1999. In 1999, I went to Munich. That's where Benedict lives. And it was my first time going to Germany, my first time teaching in Germany. After that, I kept going back to Germany for the next 15, 16 years, almost every year to teach. But this was my first time, and Benedict was in that class. I met him and his beautiful wife, Sylvia, and his wild, screaming 5-year-old child, who is not 5 years old anymore. But it was a great meeting, and I got to know Benedict as a writer who always wanted to direct. During those years, all these years, these past 20 years, we've always stayed in touch. Every time I go to Germany, I will see Benedict and often would stay with him in his home. It was very gracious to give up his guest room to me, which was also his office. Anyway, but Benedict became intrigued with this whole process. And in 2013, he started a group, which he has talked about, in Munich called TG13, which means Travis Group 13 for the year it was created. But it was created specifically to study the Travis technique and primarily the interrogation process and a lot of other techniques and a lot of the teachings from my books. And that group has been going on now for years. What is it? 7 years now. And that's what Benedict did with a group of actors and directors. They created their own, quote, gymnasium, a place to go and practice and work out. And every time I would go to Munich or go to Germany, I would go and visit TG13 and talk with them and meet with them. There was a couple of times I even met with them through Zoom. Then it was Skype. But anyway, he very diligently created an environment for him to study these techniques. He always wanted to direct a feature film, and last year he did. He directed his first feature film. It's a huge hit. It was on television, as a TV movie, which he may talk to you about a little bit, but using all of these techniques that he was learning and that he has been practicing for years and years and years. Okay, that's enough about Benedict. Now I'm going to let him talk. So Benedict, I want to welcome you, and I'm going to give you the microphone, give you the floor. It's all yours, my friend.
Hello, everybody.
There you go.
Thank you very much for your great introduction. Well, it's already everything almost said, so I can go to the details. The Travis Group 13 really gave me one very important thing, which I already said in my testimonial. It gave me confidence. And confidence is a thing you really, really definitely need when you're working on the set, because everybody, especially in Germany, I don't know if it's elsewhere the same, they expect you that you know everything, which is stupid because you never know everything. But having worked with your technique and with your tricks and tools, I got a huge box of tools to find a solution for every situation I've been during my shooting. And this gave me the confidence because I knew how to get there. It was Tamara, you said it, I think in the second session, let's figure out how we can get there. And that's all about it. You don't have to know, you will never know everything, but you have to know how you can get there. And I worked in the preparation of my film. Of course, I started with some interrogation, but my actors and actresses, they were really, really experienced actors, and they took over in a very, very short time. And we really could go very fast into the very details. But when I arrived on the set, there were always something which wasn't perfect, which wasn't the way I wanted it. And so I started to use these tools and tricks from Mark. And it's my big basis is this book, back of the, how it's called, the film director's bag of tricks. It's great. You see all the bookmarks. And I had this in my hotel when we were shooting, and every night I was just looking up some details. And I have here a little list of things I wrote. First of all, when we made these days of interrogation in the rehearsal process, there were always some keywords which worked very good. For example, show her that you love her, or don't show her that you are so shy, etc., etc. During the shooting, I could use these keywords very often, and the actors and actresses, they knew immediately in which mood they should fall during the working. I used almost every trick of Mark's book very effectively, and there is one of my favorite. It's called clipping and pausing. Because my film was a comedy, and comedy is very much about rhythm, about timing, about speed, about pauses, and about breaks. And clipping and pausing was just like a magic wand. I felt like Harry Potter when I used this tool, because here you can really change situations very fast just by telling somebody to make a break in a situation where the other actor doesn't know that there will be a pause, for example, or that somebody is just hitting in your lines of the other actor. And my lead actress, Anna Drexler, who is one of the, I think, most talented actresses we have in Germany now, she could not play otherwise. What I would use also very often was change the subtext. And even I saw my actors rehearsing their dialogues and using different subtext for rehearsing it. So they did it by themselves, just to create a new, fresh dialogue. And one last thing I want to mention is, Mark has it in his book also, it's called eye contact. You can use eye contact extremely effectively when you tell your actor just to look down and on the special word to look up. And it makes so much difference, especially in the imagery. So all these tools I used gave me a great confidence in working with my actors, and on the set I really felt at home. Although it was my first directing, I never felt insecure the whole 24 days of shooting. It was great. The biggest insecurity I felt was when we worked with horses, because horses are you can't interrogate horses. I tried it, but this was the only moment I've been really insecure when working. And there's so much more. And of course, repeating and working in TG13 in our group almost every week, over and over again. And what was very, very, very convenient and very helpful was seeing other members of the TG13 struggle with the technique, struggle with the tools and tricks, and struggle with their anxiety when they were afraid of working. As I could read it in the chat, that people are afraid working with the interrogation and with the tools and tricks. If you do it more often, and if you see other people struggling with it, it's extremely helpful, because the first thing you learn is you're not alone, and you're not the only one who is afraid of actors. Well, yeah,
Great. What a great night, and a whole great review of my book, which we haven't even discussed. But thank you about that. Now I'm a couple of things, Benedict. Now I'm thinking about how could we interrogate horses? And I'm thinking of, no, but seriously, now think about this. There are horse whisperers. I need to talk to horse, and they're dog whisperers and all that. I want to know what they whisper. Maybe they have their own form of interrogation.
well, Marek, I knew somebody who could have done this, but she wasn't available anymore during the shooting. You know that, and she was definitely a genius working with horses.
Yeah.
This is a moment where I really felt very, very much alone. But I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I would take food, for example, to interrogate horses. They always love food.
That's
And you can think
that's a good
food.
and we have to move on, but one more comment.
Yeah.
Maybe if we learn how to do this with horses, right, we'll develop new techniques on what will work with actors. You know, food.
Non-verbal, non-verbal elements.
Excellent. Okay, thank you, Benedict. I have to move on
You're
now.
welcome.
Thank you. And I look forward to the next time because it's been way too long. Next time we actually see each other in person someday, soon, somewhere. Okay, and thank you for being here. And by the way, Benedict has been in this class all along from the beginning, as all the guests are. Okay, one thing, there was, back when I was at Yale, I went to Yale to study directing, study theater. And I was working with a very, very well-known director and teacher named Nikos Sakaropoulos, who has passed away, sadly. But he would always say, here he is teaching us directing, teaching us. There was 12 directors in that class. And he had said to all of us, he says, I can't teach you how to direct. I can't. And this is going on for years. I can't teach you how to direct, but you can learn it. I can't teach it, but you can learn it. And the only way to learn it, how to direct, is to direct. Keep directing. And over the years since then, that was many years ago, it was like 30 years ago, I have realized how right he is, that the only way to learn what we want to, this skill of directing, or this skill of interrogation, or anything, any directing skills, is you just have to keep doing it. You have to keep directing. You can't learn. This is what I've been very frustrated with in my career, having written 2.5 books, well, 2 books actually, or 3, it doesn't matter, written books on directing. I'm aware of writing the books, how limited the books are, because I can only put stuff in words. How much can you learn by reading the book? You can learn a lot, but you need to do it. You actually need to do it. You need to start doing it. This is why I'm encouraging some of you to, like DC and other people, to get on the line. After this webinar, call up an actor, say, I want to try something out with you. One of the wonderful thing about actors is if you say, I want to rehearse something, most actors go, okay. Especially now, actors love working. They love working on stuff. Call them, start doing it. Wonderful. One thing is really, really important. Go out and do it and fail beautifully. Really fail beautifully. Crash and burn. Watch that Zoom tape after you talk to that actor and go, oh my God, it's so horrible and miserable. I'm a mess. Good, because you're going to learn more from your failures than anything else. Go out there and do it and do it and do it. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to look at the rest of the clip that we started on last week, and with one idea in mind. Think of this. I'm going to put, this is sort of a shift of directorial thinking. Most directors, most of us, I include myself, we think about it. This is how I want the scene to happen. This is how I want it to turn out. This is what I'm looking forward to. How can I get there? How can I make this happen somehow? And I'm going to say, let's for the moment, put that concept aside. Just put it aside. The dream you have, the vision you have for the scene is fine. I'm sure it's a great vision. But how you're going to get there is the biggest question. Rather than trying to make it happen, take a new attitude. The new attitude is, let's see what does happen. Let's see what happens. Now, see what happens means you're open to things that you did not expect, did not anticipate. A central part of this whole process that we've been talking about now for weeks is a process of let's see what happens. I'm sure you'll all understand that from the clips I've shown you, and we have more clips coming up in the weeks ahead, you won't see me telling the actors how to play a scene. You won't see me telling them, here's what I want from the scene. I want more of this or less of this. You won't see that. What you will see is this process, the interrogation or simultaneous monologues or anything, and staging, which we don't get into, that's a whole nother webinar. All of these tools and techniques that I've developed and refined are really to stimulate the characters, and then with the idea, let's see what happens. And if you approach it with that idea, and you even say that to the actors, if the actors say, how do you want to play this? I say, I don't know, let's just see what happens. You realize immediately, I hope you realize, that takes enormous pressure off of the actor. You do not want to pressure the actor to give you something. What you want to do is release the actor from any obligation to give you anything, and then release the character, and both of you, the actor, you and the actor, you will see what happens, see how it works out. Okay. One other thing, which we'll be touching on in this clip as we look at it too. When you're working with actors and you've gone through a rehearsal, one rehearsal of a scene, you've looked at the scene, and then you're thinking, which you will be, okay, I'd like to see something slightly different. I'd like to see I want something different. Whatever it is you want, and that's fine what you want. Another concept, hold on to this one. Don't try to get the actor to change. Now that sounds ridiculous. Well, if they aren't doing what I want them to do, then I have to get them to change. And I'm going to say, and I'll show you how it works in this clip. And I would say, no, you don't. You don't have to ask them to change or force them to change or request a change at all. The thing you have to do as the director, and this is where it becomes a little challenging, is you have to change. Now, you're in a very intimate relationship with these characters through the actors when you're interrogating, when you're doing simultaneous monologues, all that. It's a very, very intimate relationship, and I hope you understand that and have seen that now, where the actors are literally hugely dependent on you. They're almost dependent like a child to a parent. They're used to you. They're used to this relationship, and they will respond, as you can see in the clips already, they'll respond to you very quickly, very openly, very honestly. And if in that relationship you shift, you change your attitude, your point of view, your tone with them, they will change immediately. If you want to lighten the scene, when you come in to talk to the character again, you can't come in. I mean, you don't want to come in and say, okay, this is good, but let's make it a little lighter. Well, there's a result, and then I don't know what you're going to get. You're not going to get much. I mean, you'll get something. But if you go in after a take and you're talking to the character, and you're talking to the character in a whole different way, whole different subject, whole different point of view, whole different attitude that is lighter. And you can be, as you're talking to that character, you will see the character lighten, and then you send them into the scene and see what happens. You will get the lightness you want. It may not manifest itself in exactly the way you thought it might, but it will be lighter, and more important, it will be authentic. Okay, so now we're going to go look at this scene. We're going to look a little bit from before where we stopped. Where we stopped last time was right at the end. If you remember, there was the long building of history long. It wasn't that long. It's 15 minutes of building a history. We're not going to watch all of that now. We're going to watch the very end of that and going into the scene. I want you to see the run through of the scene and this rehearsal, just so you have that in your mind, so you can see how effective these changes are going to be. So, and I may start and stop it because that's what I love doing. I do. You know, I want to tell you this whole process of, I love this process of looking at something I shot years ago and breaking it down and analyzing it. And one of the things that's beautiful about it for me, not only what I'm learning and what I see happening and what I see happening in the actors, is I can't change these video clips. That's it. That's the performance. That's what I did. That's what they did. And it's wonderful because I can just look at it and I'm learning a lot from just watching this and breaking it down, just like I'm suggesting that you do when you work with actors like on Zoom. Okay, here we go.
I was going, it was completely obvious, and it's the only chance I had.
It's a rebellion on a little boy's part because you don't want to be in charge of anything.
If I was such a little boy, would I have the balls to blackmail them? Would I? Or would I have just taken it?
I don't know what teenage things you're doing now with a new car and smoking pot, but it's not an adult thing. I mean, you might have felt great when you were in the office.
Lester starts working out.
Would you think that's childish too?
I don't think it's
Because
childish.
I'm concerned
I
about.
think it's just so cliche.
What cliche?
Yeah.
How? It's not cliche.
my
Lester has a
midlife
job.
crisis.
Lester has a job at Smiley's.
That is just hideous and embarrassing.
I'm exploring. It's fun. It's silly.
No,
it
I
keeps me
cannot
busy.
wait for the day that someone comes to an open house and they're like, "Oh, I met your husband. He works at Smiley's."
I'm trying it out. It's just something.
No, you're not trying it out. It's a big F you.
What you think? You think I want a career with Smiley's?
No, you want to F off everyone. Look it, I quit my job. Look it, I work out and I smoke pot in this garage of mine and I flip burgers.
That's not true. I'm finally doing something for
Carolyn
myself.
drags Lester to the real estate convention and meets the real estate king.
I should have left you at home. That I know now.
Obviously, it was important for you to show me what success is in your eyes, clearly.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if it'll just rub off.
Rub off? How do you think it makes me feel?
I wasn't.
You don't
concerned
care about it, do you? No, obviously. That's the furthest thing from your mind.
Just, it would have been nice if you could have put on appearances for one night, but you couldn't, not even one night. I had to find you in the back alley, buying whatever it was.
Listen, I went. I tried my best.
No, you
Isn't
didn't
that
try
good?
your best. That is a thing you get to say so you feel good about yourself.
You know I'm not
But
good
you
at those
didn't.
things.
Who cares? It's appearances.
I'm my mother's
it on
son.
for a
Obviously,
second.
it's hard for us to, just.
Right, and your timing is awful. Okay, well, good. We can go back to her. I'll blame
Oh,
her.
come on. Look, I did that for you, and I saw something with this guy, this realty king,
It's the real estate.
and I
king.
saw how you looked at him. I don't care what it is.
How did I look at him?
What I want from you now, go. Now, okay, I just want to mention this again. Okay, there's the tail end of the building the history. Then there's a shift I do, what I want from you now. Now you realize up to this moment, at least in the past few minutes, at least what we saw and a lot before that, these two have been either attacking each other or defending themselves from each other. It's very aggressive. They're being very aggressive. Now the switch, what I want from you now. Now that switch, and this is one I use a lot, that switch is very, very tricky to handle for them. Because you watch, suddenly, I'm saying, stop the attack, stop the defense, go to a request. And right at that moment, my feeling is that's the furthest thing from their mind, a request. Now just watch how they respond to it. Not just what they say, but emotionally how they respond.
What I want from you now
What I want from you now
is
is
to
to
see
admit that
somebody
this tantrum of
trying
yours is
and has
so
finally got fed up
preposterous that it
that
has,
they need to
it
do
has
something for
come-
themselves,
we've
which
come
is what
undone.
I'm doing.
Whatever strings they were
And
cut,
you need to let me
it's
do
over.
this.
What I need
And
from
maybe
you
realize
now is just
that
to
it's
admit
something
it,
that I
it
need to
is
do
so
for my own
done.
survival.
Then read the scene. Okay, so now going into the scene, I'll let the scene play through, but going into the scene, this is really important for everything we're talking about today. They're going into the scene, not out of attacking each other. They're going out into the scene from making requests of each other. Here's what I want from you. Here's what you could do to help me. Here's what you could do to help our relationship. It's a whole different mindset. Now, this is just a choice that I'm making at that moment. I want them to go into the scene needing something from each other rather than attacking each other, knowing very clearly, because I've read the scene, that the scene, they attack, especially she attacks a lot. He defends. But what they want from each other, to me, is sort of more of a subtextual aspect of the relationship. So I want that to be predominant inside them. Okay, now let's just watch the scene.
What?
Whose car is that out front?
Mine? 1972 Pontiac GTO. The car that I've always wanted. And now I have it. I rule.
Mhm. Where's the Camry?
I traded it in.
Shouldn't you have consulted me first?
Let me think. No. You never drove it. You look good. What have you done?
Where's Jane?
Jane's not home. We have the entire house to ourselves. Christ, Carolyn, when did you become so joyless?
Joyless?
Yeah.
I am not joyless. There happens to be a lot about me you don't know, Mr. Smarty Pants. I have a lot of joy in my life.
Whatever happened to the girl that used to fake seizures at frat parties when she got bored? And the girl who would run up to the rooftop of our first apartment building just to flash the traffic helicopters? Have you totally forgotten about her? Or
Lester, you're gonna spill beer on the couch.
what? It's just a couch.
This is a $4,000 sofa upholstered in Italian silk. This is not just a couch.
No, it is just a couch. This is not life. This is stuff. And it's become more important to you than living. Well, honey, it's just nuts. I'm only trying to help you.
You're what? Okay. Now I'm coming in to interrogate again. Now I'm just say, listen to the tone of the interrogation.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you miss her? Carolyn, come back.
I miss her.
First question I asked, do you miss her? Now this is very different from, this is your wife. Are you, is she pleasing you? Are you getting what you want? Are you happy? I'm back to, are you missing her? Now, intentionally, what I'm doing now, after this run through, I want to shift the two of them dramatically into a whole different frame of mind as the characters. I don't want to stop and talk to the actors at all. I want to stay with the characters. I want to shift them within a minute or two and send them back into the scene. What we're going to look at now, it'll take us a little longer than a couple of minutes, but in actual time, it's 2 minutes. From this point till the next run through of the scene is only 2 minutes. That's it. If I can shift the way the characters are thinking, then I will get a different performance. I know I will. The wonderful thing is at the end of a scene right now, you start talking to the characters, they're still in character. So you already have them deep in character. You don't have to take them there or try to get them. They are there and they're resonating with what just happened. And if I could just shift their needs and their desires, their attitudes, their point of view, something, then I can change. Well, my goal is I want to shift them from the antagonistic attack, the disappointment, the pain of where they are now, into the pain of loss of where they used to be. If I can open up inside each of them within a minute or so, the need and the desire to be back to what they used to be when they were happy. If I can get them there and then send them into the scene, then I'll send them in and see what happens. That whole thing. Let's see what happens. Okay, let's look at this.
You miss her?
I miss her a lot.
Miss her a lot?
Yeah.
Miss the good times?
Of course I miss the good times. I miss.
Now, you've got to understand, which I know you do, Carolyn is there now, and I'm still talking to Lester very personally, very intimately, how he feels about Carolyn. You see, he's really concentrating on her. He's really concentrating heavily on her and not so much on me. Although he is listening to me. And she's there hearing what we're talking about.
Us, who
Right.
we used to be.
You remember the good times?
Now, also listen to the tone of my voice. It's very quiet. It's very intimate. It's very, very personal. Angela, you're there someplace listening to this. This is what we were talking about. The whole tone is very, very different. It's not that harsh, aggressive interrogation at all, although it is still interrogation.
Remember her flashing that traffic helicopter?
Yeah.
Remember?
Now I've got him laughing. This is good. Laughing from a memory. This is good. Now I'm going to her.
Flashing the traffic helicopter?
Yeah, I
Yeah, yeah.
How quickly this is what I love about actors. You work with really good actors. These are two really good actors who I've worked with a lot, that they are so open and available and accepting of any shift. They will just go with it. They want to go with it, but they're going with it authentically.
It was good, wasn't it? Do you miss that? Come on, do you miss it?
I miss
You miss what?
being silly, sure.
Okay, I'm just trying to get her to admit that she misses it. She's doing it reluctantly, but it's there.
Being silly? Do you miss the old times with Lester? 15, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Have you ever?
Okay, this is important. Do you miss the old times? These seem like small things, but they're not. This is big. She says, yes, I miss it.
Hold on. Have you ever told her how much you miss her?
Now, all of you hopefully recognize that question. Have you ever told her how much you miss her? This is the beginning of a setup. This is the beginning of a setup for a simultaneous monologue. Now, I'm only into like less than a minute since they were running the scene, the end of the scene. And I'm already setting them up for the monologues. And the thing is, one thing I hope will happen with all of you when you start working with actors, and this is what happened, I know, with Benedict and TG13, when a lot of them started working over and over again. The actors start to recognize these little clues. They can hear that. They know. They sort of know, I know where we're going. They can feel it, which is great. That's when the actor within that person, that's when Rob as Lester, when he hears, have you ever told her? He knows where I'm going. He can say, now I don't say, I'm not saying he knows consciously that he's going, oh, I know where we're going now, but he's responding to it because he's done this before. And then that's when the actor within this package of actor and character will actually help the character go where we want the character to go.
Really miss her? From your heart?
No.
Okay, right now, just talking to each other, two more, just
Now, that is the world's shortest setup. Have you ever told her? No. Okay, now I'm right into talking about the two monologues. So
talking to each other, trying to connect. Tell each other how much you miss who you were. Go.
I miss you so much.
I miss when you would.
now I want to make a note here about this moment. This, my experience as an actor for many, many years, and then my experiences of many more years working with actors. I know one of the easiest emotions to express for many, many actors is anger, rage, disappointment, trying to control, trying to take over. That's easy. That's relatively easy. In other words, during the simultaneous monologues, when they're attacking each other, that's relatively easier than what they have to do right now. Right now, the two characters, I'm asking the characters right in front of each other to become extremely vulnerable and to express how much they miss each other, even though they have just come out of minutes of rehearsal, which we've seen before, 15, 17 minutes of rehearsal that ended up with attacking each other and a scene where they attack each other. Now they're being asked to reveal something, to become vulnerable, to expose something that is scary, that is frightening for the characters. This is very, very difficult to do, really difficult to do, and to keep it authentic. In fact, you could see at the beginning of this, I'm going to go back just a little bit and show you, right? See if I could just show you the beginning of this and watch what Lester, Rob, as Lester does.
Okay, right now, just talking to each other, two Marleys just talking to each other, trying to connect. Tell each other how much you miss who you were. Go.
Now watch Lester right
Miss you
here.
so much.
I miss you so much. Now, I hear the actor struggling with trying to say that. So he says it. He just gets it out there. He's trying to get into that zone.
When you would just sweep me up in your arms after a hard day. I miss when you cheered me on.
I miss when you used to smile. You used to look at me and just smile for no particular reason.
I miss when you came up with ideas like going to fairs with Jane and I. I miss you seeing me.
Coming home and being pissed off, just a little pissed off of something that I did. But all I would have to do is smile and we would make love. We would make passionate love. I miss that.
Okay.
Just do the scene.
So that's also a very, very short simultaneous monologue, very short. Basically what I'm doing, seeing if they are vulnerable enough, connected enough. I want to see how much they're connecting with each other, how honest they're being with each other, and how genuine these feelings of missing and longing for each other are. That's what I want. And I want to send them in the scene contained with those emotions, or those emotions being riding right up on the surface. And again, let's see what happens.
What?
Whose car is that out front?
It's mine. It's a 1972 Pontiac GTO. It's a car that I've always wanted. And now I have it. I rule.
Where's the Camry?
I traded it in.
Shouldn't you have consulted me first?
Let me think. No. You never drove it. You look good. What have you done?
Where's Jane?
Jane's not home. We have the entire house to ourselves. Christ, Carolyn, what have you become so joyless?
Joyless?
Yeah.
I am not joyless. There happens to be a lot about me you don't know, Mr. Smarty Pants.
Okay, I'm going to stop for a moment. I don't know if you remember the last version of this, the earlier version or something, but when he said, why are you so joyless? And I think every time we've done that earlier, she has become defensive and attack. Joyless, I'm not joyless. This time it's a whole different response. She knows the lines. Everybody knows the lines. She knows this is coming. What the wonderful thing is with this way of working, Corinne at this moment, knowing the lines, knowing what's coming, is not prepared for what is coming at all. She's not prepared for it. The beauty of this moment is that when it comes, she seems thrown by it.
Christ, Carolyn, when have you become so joyless?
Watch this.
Joyless?
Yeah.
I am not joyless. There happens to be a lot about me you don't know, Mr. Smarty Pants. I have plenty of joy in my life.
Whatever happened to the girl?
Now, my feeling, I could be totally wrong about this, but my feeling in a moment like that, what's going on inside Corrine is partially the desire to get back to the performance she had given before, where she could be more defensive and just attack him about the joyless thing. She would like to sort of snap out at him. And so that desire may still be inside her, may still be inside Carolyn. But because we went into this scene, opening up these wounds and opening up these fears and opening up this vulnerability and this longing for the life that they used to have, she's actually battling. She has one desire inside Carolyn, battling an emotion inside Carolyn. That's what I see when she's struggling to try to get her footing there. And that's something you can't ask for. You can't say, oh yeah, give me conflicting emotions. I need to see some conflicting emotions. You can't do that.
I used to fake seizures at frat parties. Just when she got bored. And the girl would run on top of the rooftop of our first apartment building, the flat.
And the beauty about this point, when he's bringing up the memories, is we have the memories right at the surface, or the longing for each other right at the surface. And so it's really hitting her much, much harder.
The traffic helicopters. Have you totally forgotten about her? Because I haven't.
And also because we brought it up for him, his whole tone of those lines about, do you remember this woman? Do you remember what you used to do? I haven't forgotten her. All of that because his feelings of longing for that past are right in the surface. So that'll affect that, and it gives him much more confidence and strength.
Mister, you're gonna spill beer on the couch.
So what? It's just a couch.
This is a $4,000 sofa, upholstered in Italian silk. It's not just a couch.
This is a couch. This isn't life. This is just stuff. And it's become more important to you than living. Honey, it's just nuts. I'm only trying to help you.
Carolyn, come back.
Okay, now I hope you see in that scene the difference. And one thing we can talk about later, which we'll talk about with Lewis later, and not today, in another session. You can take a performance like that and cut it into the performance that was earlier. You can cut them together. You can. A lot of, some of you may be having these questions, or what about continuity? I can't have that performance and then the other performance that has more antagonism. I can't. It has to be one or the other. No, it doesn't have to be one or the other. You can shoot both. You could shoot 3 different versions of it. I recommend 3 with another approach, a third one with another approach. Can you cut them together? Yes, you can. And what Lewis and I have, or Lewis discovered in some of his work, that is by cutting totally disparate performances together, a third element in the relationship is revealed. Something was revealed in one version, something else was revealed in another version. You put it together, a third thing. It becomes even more complex. And actually, you can create a scene and a performance that in a way never really happened. It did happen because you have it on film, but the way you put it together creates a whole nother experience, to the point that the actors will look at it and go, wow, well, that's interesting. They see it as being fresh and new. So don't worry about that. So I hope you all see the difference. Okay, now I'm coming in at the end of the scene. Now this is the check-in. The check-in is still happening.
How's it going, Lester?
I see something. There's something in her eye. There's something there. It's
Now, again, my interrogation is very soft. I am actually just asking them. It's more like an interview. I'm just asking them for how you're doing. What are you seeing? I'm not pushing them. I don't need to push them. I just need to keep them open.
buried deep, but it's still there.
How's it going for you, Carolyn?
I don't like it.
You don't like it? Okay, the two of you. What I need from you right now.
Now, that I don't like it, I think is referring back to some of the stuff that I observed, that struggle within her to try to maintain who she wanted to be, who Carolyn wanted to be. But this vulnerability that she was feeling going into the scene wouldn't allow her to do that. And I think that's what she doesn't like. And what you have to ask yourself as you look at this, say, is this the Carolyn I want? Is this the Carolyn I see? I mean, I do. I see Carolyn being so highly conflicted internally, emotionally. I mean, she's a wreck inside, a total wreck inside, who on the outside is pretending or portraying herself as being totally together, thinking that Lester is the wreck. Lester is actually more together than she is. That's the way I see it. So when I hear something like this afterwards, I don't like it. I'm thinking, great, that's Carolyn. First of all, this is not Corrine saying she doesn't like it. This is Carolyn saying she doesn't like it. Very important.
Oh, go.
I need from you right now is
Now this is going back to what I need from you now. Now it's still asking for things. Very, very difficult.
The
Have
sad thing is I
fun.
don't know what I need from you
I
because
need
I'm not
joy
sure I
back
need
in your
anything
life.
anymore.
What do you mean? Of course you do. Of course you do.
No,
We've got a
I'm not
terrific
sure
thing
that
going
I
on.
do.
Unfortunately, it's hit a bump, but we can fix it. Don't you want it back? Don't you want it back?
I've already left, so I don't know what to get back.
I see something in your eye. You understand? I see something that wants it back. No matter what's coming out of your mouth, you can't change that. All right? You can't change my mind about that because I see it. I want it.
I need you to stop. Stop.
What?
Stop.
Stop what?
Just stop us.
I can't. I'm doing something for myself. And I need you to see that I need to do that.
I need you to understand that I'm trying to become something else.
Yeah, listen, I've been understanding about that a lot with the new car and going back to school and the new job
I want to be
and
more
all
than
your
this.
little functions that
I
you do.
want to
I've been
be
trying to
more.
understand
I
that.
want to be more than this.
More than what?
Okay, one last statement. Carolyn?
I don't want to be her anymore.
Say that again.
I don't want to be her, the old her. I don't.
Okay, one last statement, Lester.
Deep down, you still are her.
One word, Carolyn. One word.
Help.
One word, Lester.
Love.
Okay. Is there anything you want to do? Do it now.
Come here. Come here. Come here. I love you. I love you. I do. I do. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. Thank you. Good work. Thank you. I'm going to give you a moment to relax and then we're going to talk. Okay?
Yeah.
And right now you can just both walk out of frame any way you want, any direction you want.
That's a cut. Okay. So we're back. So this is the effect of doing. It's what something else taught me about this thing called trim tabs. I don't know if you know what a trim tab is. I'll probably get this somewhat wrong, but it's on a ship that on the rudder, there's a very small tab or something on the rudder that if you change it a little bit, it'll affect the direction of the ship. It's called a trim tab. It'll trim it and it can start to turn the ship. In other words, I go in after a run through and I shift their thinking into something else, something that we have covered in building the history, the joy, the happiness, the laughter, the sex, and all of that. I'm just tapping back into that, the moments when they were really happy. I'm bringing that up and saying, go into the scene full of that. That's the trim tab. That's the little shift I'm doing. And I'm just watching to see what happens. I'm not asking them for anything. I'm just changing one part of the setup, what's going on inside the character, send them in and see what happens. And this is the result. Now I could do it again. I could actually go back right after this and do it again. Rather than stop where I stopped, I could go back and do take 3. I could have shifted them again and send them in again. See what happens. Now think about this. The time I spent with them after that first run through until the second run through started was literally 2 minutes. I came in, asked them a few questions, did a little setup, got them into the memories a little bit. Then within a minute, I had them into simultaneous monologues. And within a minute after that, they were starting the scene. 2 minutes. Now I'm just going to jump ahead for a lot of you into production. You're in production, you've shot the scene, you've done take 1, and you're going to go into take 2. 2 minutes. You walk up to them, you're still on the set, you're right there in front of everybody in the crew, doesn't matter. They don't care. They're not aware of it anyway, of the other people. And in 2 minutes, you could do that and then change the performance. A lot of people ask me, how can I use these techniques in production? That's the way you use them. But remember, you have to develop the skills yourself. This gets into rehearsal. So you have the ability to be able to do this enough that you can pull this off. And you have to have rehearsed with the actors prior to production this way. So they are accustomed to this way of working. In fact, what I do in rehearsal when I'm working with the actors, I would do something like that. And afterwards I say, okay, when we go into production, I'm going to do this very much like this, just what we did here. And they go, oh, I see. That's the way it's going to work in production. I said, absolutely. And we will see what happens. Okay. These are questions that are coming up?
Yeah.
Okay. Why have them do what they want for the final moment? Oh, that thing, do whatever you want. Let them follow their own impulse. I was curious to see what they would do. I had a feeling because they were so vulnerable, they would probably do pretty much what they did, but they could have walked away from each other. They could have done anything. For me, that was just my curiosity, Julia, to see what's going to happen. How do you shoot the different versions of a scene with different setups? Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, so we can go into one setup. I could, let's say we're going to do 3 takes of each setup. I'm in a setup, I'm going to do at least 3 takes. Each take is going to be a slightly different version, whatever the setup is. So I could do the first version we saw today, which was more contentious and argumentative. I could go in and do this one, which is softer and it's more a sense of memory and longing to be back. And I could do a third version, which could be something totally different. And then after we finish shooting those 3, we go to another setup and I'll go back and I'll repeat the same thing. I'm going for the same emotional entry for the actors. I may do it slightly differently, but I know I'm going for a similar emotional state on each setup, which means if you're shooting a scene and let's say you have 5 setups, 3 takes per setup, you have 15 different versions of this scene. literally 15 different versions. The amount of material you have to choose from is extraordinary, even though take one was always with the same idea, but it'll come out slightly different on the second setup, on the third setup, on the fourth setup. So that's the way it's done. And the best way to work on that, Julia, is in rehearsal, practice it that way with the actors, okay? Lewis says, no run through is ever quite the same twice. Yep. You can get them into a similar place to start off, but it can lead to a different outcome. That's right. It won't be. The last thing I want to do is ask actors to repeat something. I need, that wonderful thing you did this morning. I need you to do that again in this angle. You can't do that. Don't even try to do that. Don't even bring it up. Go for the variety. Literally, go for the variety. Would you do this for every scene or just the difficult ones? Just about every scene. Just about every scene. Now, there's some, quite honestly, Marilyn, that are simpler scenes. I don't have to do it with as much complexity or depth or variety. And I may choose some scenes to do very little just because of time, just to get it done, get out of the scene quickly and spend the time and everything else. But I will think about each scene this way, or I will do this with every scene in the rehearsal process. Or there'll be some scenes I won't do it in the rehearsal process, and I'll leave it to be fresh during production. It's all just a matter of choices. Okay, if there are any other questions, please let me know. Okay, here's a question. Why not just tell the actors what mood or attitude you want and let them do the work? It's a great question. That's very traditional directing. I need more sense of loss. I need more sense of pain of the loss. I could ask those two actors to do that in that, like that last take. Here's what I want. I don't want the argument. I want the sense. I could say that. Now, the translating that has to go on in the actor's brain now is enormous. And first of all, you won't get what we just got. But now they have to say, oh, that's what we want. How am I going to get there? What is it that I'm missing? And what is that feeling? And what my experience with working with actors and working as an actor is, how do I play that? And suddenly I get into an actor's plan. What I love about what we just saw is there is no actor's plan. So I just don't do that. But in terms of result directing, there is another way, which I think I mentioned in another session, that you can use the result directing with interrogation, which is I could go to the actors and say, okay, I want to do another take, and I want to explore the pain that the two characters are going through. Now I'm talking just to the actors, not to the characters. The pain that the two characters are going through because of what has been lost, because the beautiful part of their relationship and marriage and their dreams have all been lost, and they want it back. And I want to bring that to I want that to be predominant. And the actors will go, okay. I would say, okay, let's figure out how we get there. Now they know what I'm going for, but I'm not asking them to do something. I'm just saying that's the goal. Then I could go back to interrogation and do pretty much what I just did. Lester, do you miss her? Carolyn, do you miss him? Now the actors know where I'm going. And just by letting them know where I'm going, they'll help facilitate all of us, me, the actors and the characters, to get there. They'll facilitate it. But I'm not result directing in the way I'm saying, here are the results I want. Here's what I need. Please give it to me now. Okay, are you ready? And then start rolling the camera, which is horrible. Then the actors are standing there going, what am I supposed to do? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And they very well, two things may go through their mind. If you come in and ask for such a radical change like that, they may think, wow, he really hated whatever we did. It wasn't anywhere near what he wanted, which is not true. It's not, I didn't hate it, and it's great. Whatever they did was great. And the other thing is they're jammed into this, suddenly making a big shift. And now what you're going to get is a very mechanical performance. Okay. If there are any other questions, please raise your hands. We have a few moments left here. Well, what do I discuss with actors after the clip? Okay, let me explain a little bit with this clip, and I'll tell you exactly what we discussed. These clips that you've seen so far were part of a weekend shoot, 2 full days with these actors on this one scene, doing pretty much what you saw. It was done as an experiment. It was done to explore, intentionally to explore the interrogation process and to see, getting back to trim tabs, to see how effectively I could change a performance very quickly by just changing how they entered the scene, what you just saw. That was a big part of what this whole weekend was about. There's also parts about it which had to do with staging and all that. But because we were filming this, and that was the intention, was to film the whole thing for this documentary and for the use like we're using it now, what I discussed with them right away, which they knew, I wanted to discuss with them what they had just gone through. I have the interview with them, what they just experienced after these, like this last clip was like 20 minutes long. And I would discuss with them what they experienced afterwards. And this is really me doing a lot of research with them. What did you feel? What was working for you? What wasn't working for you? That's all been filmed. It has not been edited together yet, but it's all been filmed. So that's what I was discussing. But to answer your question in another way, Julia, after a take like that, if we had finished that last take and we were moving out of that setup and we're going to move into another setup, which was going to take 20 minutes or half an hour before we're ready to do that, I would then talk to them again. And I would talk to them and I would really ask them, the actors, how is this working for you? And I would tell them, almost always I tell them, I said, I'm pleased with everything that's happening. It's great, without pointing at anything specific, but I would check with them. And one of the parts of the process that I like of this interrogation process is when I and the actors check with each other and talk about how well the techniques are working or not working, or when they get thrown. And it's at times like that they would tell me, okay, yeah, but when you said that one thing, Mark, that just threw me off. It just threw me right out of the character. And I would think, oh, okay, thank you. Thank you for telling me that. So I'm checking with them to see how the process is working. It's not checking with them to criticize or make demands in terms of performance at all. Okay, any other questions yet? Oh, there's Carl. Welcome, Carl. The technique is best for creating not only opposing conflict between the characters, but also creating cognitive dissonance within themselves, giving them more depth into their character. Now, Carl, who's in Auckland, New Zealand, has been playing with these techniques for about a year now. And I think he's addicted. I think he's even said he's addicted to them, and he's been working with actors a lot. So that's a great comment, Carl. Thank you. Beth says, with the new actors to this process, do you introduce right away the scenes or do it by way of an example? And do you introduce right away with the scene? I don't know what that means, or do it by example. Can you tell me what that means, Beth?
Yeah, I mean, do you start with the new actors using the scene like you've just shown and illustrated, or do you explain it and give an example of something that's not to do with the scene?
Explain what?
The way that you're going to do the actual interrogation process. Do you just give an example and then let them play around with it, or go right into the scene?
No. Okay, this is a great question. Now, there are a lot of different situations. Many times there are situations I'm working with actors like Rob and Corrine and Tamara and people like that who know the process. So they know what, I don't need to explain anything. But if you're really talking about actors who are new to this, I tell them as little as possible.
Right.
And I'll tell you why. If I explain this to the actors, okay, and what it is I'm going to do, and even how it works or why it works, which I haven't even explained that too much to all of you, on why it works, because it does something interesting to your brain.
Right.
But if I explain that to the actors, now they're all that becomes part of their whole, oh, wow, this way, oh, he's going to talk to the character. Oh, and the character, okay, and I'm going to drift to the background. All this, I don't want them to have that. I don't
Right.
want them to be thinking about it. So many times, and I've done this many times. In fact, this is a good lead until next week. You'll see, and I'll give you a little preview. Next week, and this is in New Zealand last year, where I worked with 3 actors in front of a auditorium of actors.
Mhm.
The 3 actors I had no time to work with them prior, no time at all. I met them in the dressing room. They had read the script. They knew they knew their lines. They knew and that was it. And basically, all I said to them was, "Trust me." The one thing I said is, it's going to involve, my way of working is going to involve some improvisation. And usually actors go, "Great, okay, I can do that." I said, "Just trust me, and that's it.
Right.
If I explain too much, if they get too much information in their head, they'll start trying to process it, say, "Oh, I see," and they will analytically watch what I'm doing, which means they're not in the character.
Right. Right.
So I will put them right into the process, which also brings up, just briefly, the casting process, where when I'm casting actors and they read a scene for me, and there they are in front of producers and all that stuff and under that pressure. And as soon as the reading is done, I immediately start interrogating their character. There is no preparation. They're not being told this is going to happen. Although the last time I did this was for a play, and all the actors were waiting out in the lobby, and they were coming in one at a time. Word started to spread in the lobby of what was going on. So then actors would start to come in going, "Okay, something different's happening," which is fine. But if you try to explain to them what you're going to do, you're actually going to make it worse. And I think it's best for the actors to discover what you're going to do by what they experience, not by analyzing it or breaking it down or anything like that. To the point that I've been working, I think it was when I was working with Corinne in that play, and we'd been working for weeks, and I mentioned the term simultaneous monologues, and they went, "What?" Well, we've been doing them for weeks. They never knew that was the name.
Right.
So in other words, don't fill their brain up with unnecessary information. You want them to be free and open and playful. Okay?
Right. Thank you.
Okay, Marilyn has a question.
Okay, yeah, I'm curious about what you do in a situation where maybe you're working with a very experienced actor, and before, in our first session, you said a lot, before you start the interrogation, you usually want to ask for permission to do this exercise. What if this experienced actor says to you, "No, I don't want to do anything. Just tell me what you want and let me do it," but you're still not getting the performance out of them that you really, really want? How would you handle a situation like that?
Okay, I'll tell you how I have handled it. Now, I'm assuming for a moment, Marilyn, that we're in a rehearsal moment, not in production, not under the pressure of production.
Right.
Okay, and let's say we have this very, very, well, you said famous or established actor and a lot of other actors. And I'm not going to ask any of them for permission to do what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do that. Or I'm not, it's like I was just saying to Beth, I'm not going to explain it so that I can get permission. I'm not going to do that. What I have done in the past is, this was several years ago, I did this, again, it was a play. And we had the first reading of the play. We just sat around the table reading, like you do. You read the play. As soon as the reading was over, I started interrogating some of the characters. And I had an actor in there that I knew could be problematic. And he was playing the father of this family. And I knew he could be, so I did not pick, I started working with some of the other people who were playing the children, and I started interrogating them. And they opened up quickly and immediately, and then I would switch to another character, and it was a soft interrogation at the beginning. And after a while, the character playing the father felt like it might be coming to him, and he stopped me. And he said, I have to stop for a moment. I said, "Okay, fine." He says, I just want you to know, I hate improvisation. I'm not really good at it. I go, okay. And so whatever this is you're doing, I can't do this. I said, fine, you don't have to, but stay here. Don't leave. Just stay in the room with us. And he said, fine, I'll stay here. Then I went back to interrogating the other people, the mother and the children. But I shifted the interrogation to talking about the father, and interrogating the mother about the father, and the children about the father, and the father's girlfriend about the father. And after about maybe 3 or 4 minutes, finally this actor playing the father says, okay, fine, and started to defend himself as the father. He started responding. Now he started responding under the pressure of hearing all of this stuff. Now that can happen. In other words, the actor may feel comfortable coming into the process when they feel compelled to come into the process within the character, and they've stopped thinking about it. And there he is, and he's defending himself, and he's speaking about the girlfriend, and he's speaking about the mother and his 2 sons and all of that. And I'm thinking, this guy's the guy who says he can't improvise, and it was brilliant. So that can happen. Also, same situation, another way it could turn out is you're there with that very famous actor and you're interrogating everybody else, and he or she is not doing anything. And they never do anything. They never get engaged at all. And I would say, fine. Do you realize how much they've heard from the other actors, from the other characters? You realize how much they've learned? Do you realize how much they've learned about themselves from the point of view of the other characters? A lot. And you realize how much they feel connected to the other characters, even though they have not participated in the process at all, except sitting there listening. So that's my way of approaching it. Don't try to force anybody to do anything that they feel uncomfortable with. Okay? That's it. So here's what's going to happen for next week. We're near the end here. Unless there are more questions, put them up. If you want to write to me by email, you can. If you want to put more stuff in the chat, please do. I will look at it and respond to it later. The work for next week, big shift next week, big shift. Number 1, we're leaving American Beauty and these 2 actors behind for the moment. They'll come back again, but for the moment, we're leaving them behind. We're shifting. We're actually going to the other side of the world. We're going to New Zealand, and a whole nother workshop, a master class, the one I just mentioned, about doing this in front of a lot of these people with no rehearsal time, and a whole nother clip with different actors, and a whole nother interrogation. The script is Manchester by the Sea, and there's a scene from the sort of very famous scene between Lee and Randy and Rachel for a moment. From that scene, from that script, that's the scene we're working on. When I send you the replay of this version of this session, you will also receive the script, Manchester by the Sea, the full script. You'll receive the scene. You'll receive the clip we're going to be looking at. You'll receive all of those and the transcript of the clip. All of those, that whole package. There's a lot of new material. So obviously, clearly, your homework is go through all of this. I would read the script. By the way, it's a brilliant script. And if you remember the movie, well, I hope you do. Take a look at the script. Take a look at the way he wrote the script in order to create more authentic conversations, which means overlapping dialogue. You can see it in there. It's actually almost orchestrated. It's almost like a film score, how it's orchestrated, how the dialogue overlaps and how it works. And it actually comes out in the scene when we do the scene. So read the script, you'll see the scene, read the scene, watch the video. You have the transcript, which I know a lot of you have thanked me for, and you're welcome, because the transcript is valuable. Transcript is a great place to take notes. Like when we're going through, use the transcript to a place to take notes, because you could take notes actually within the script of the whole rehearsal process. So that is for next week. The last thing is my passionate encouragement. And this gets back to what Nikos Sakaropoulos said to me. I can't teach you how to direct, but you can learn it. I can't teach you how to do the interrogation technique, but you can learn it. You have to learn it by doing it. When you're doing it, if I'm there when you're doing it, then I can help you a lot. But start experimenting. Be willing to fail. Call an actor or two. Give them a scene or whatever. Do it on Zoom. I highly recommend doing it on Zoom, not just because of the virus, but because you can record it and you can look at it later and it can become part of your file. Okay, I tried that this way. The next time I interrogate her about that scene, I'm going to do it a different way. And you can change your plans and go back and do it a different way. I really encourage you to start doing this. Give me a report on how it's all working and how the process is going for you. We'll talk next week too about other opportunities I can create for you, I have for you to actually rehearse these techniques, which has to do with like the director's lab, which I've mentioned before, which by the way, starts up again in January. This is for a limited number of directors who can work intently on a weekly basis on these techniques, all done online. Talk to you about that. We can talk about, there's a lot of people I work with one-on-one, like Lewis is one. He can talk about that when, and I'm open to discussing anything you want to do. And I also recommend, if you want to, you can do what Benedict did, which is gather a group together, group of directors and actors, 2 or 3 actors and 2 or 3 directors. You got a group that is going to get together and start practicing these techniques. Now, the best thing would be a group from this group, from this. There are a lot of you who are in the same, at least in the same country. I don't know if you're in the same city, but you don't even have to be if you do it on Zoom. You could get together and start practice. You can even practice with each other. You can even interrogate each other. So think about a variety of ways. Become creative. That's it. We are at the end of the session. There are no more questions coming up. So I'm going to
Thank you so much.
Thank you, David. And thank you so much for a wonderful session. I look forward to seeing you all next week when we move to New Zealand. And I see you, Lewis, saying goodbye. That's very nice. Thank you. And
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
bye-bye. You can unmute yourselves and make a lot of noise.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. I had a great time. Bye. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good week.
Thanks, Mark.
Bye-bye.
You're the man. Bye,
Thank
you
you,
guys.
Mark.
Have fun.
Thank you, Mark.
Lovely stuff.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thank you
Mark.
very much.
Thank you, everyone.
That's great.
Bye-bye.